this series so well set up now, one apiece with 2 to play, including a day-night test as venues will shift. Sanjay, Manjrekar, Ian Bell all set. Sanjay, quite the performance from India after after what happened in the first test. They turned things around.
Absolutely, and the way they batted in the first innings on a pitch like that, Rohit Sharma's 160 and getting 320 runs meant that England was always, catching up and fighting against the tide. Exactly what the reverse in the first test, where England batted first and got 578 runs. After that, India just struggled to come back into the game, and the pitch was assisting Indian spinners. And this kind of wins, Raunak, we've seen many a times over the last many years. That's been India's modus operandi to win matches. On the odd occasion, it's backfired like it did in the first test. But this is the kind of spirit that this India team has. They have a very short-term sort of memory of such things, such setbacks. We saw that in Australia as well. And this series has just begun with India bouncing back.
Yeah, I really like that. One of the first things you've mentioned in this post-match show, it tends to be forgotten with so much action, is Rohit Sharma's innings. And as we look at how this test match has gone, it's an interesting call for whoever decides man of the matches, whether Ashwin with his impressive 5-wicket haul and the 100 is the real man of the match, or whether the defining sort of innings of this test.
It will go to Ashwin. Typically, it will go to Ashwin. I rarely agree
with
the man of the match choices, yeah.
There's an affinity of Ashwin and man of the match awards. But if I go to Ian Bell on this one, what's been a conversation on the pitch, on batting, etc.? We look back at that Rohit Sharma innings and think, yeah, that set the tone for India, Belly?
100%. I think we said it at the end of day one. We weren't going to be quite sure how good that innings was on day one. And until both teams had batted on it first, you never quite know. And we were quite, forceful on that kind of opinion. So I think, yeah, we look back, that was a great knock. But there's been some great performances from India all the way down that team sheet. And Sanjay's absolutely right. I think the one thing, certainly from an English point of view, I thought our performance in the first test was outstanding. But it was one of those, don't get carried away. India are resilient. They pick themselves up after defeats and they move on quite quickly. So I think we've seen that, and credit to India. But the key point really is their senior players have stepped up. And Rohit Sharma's innings really was the catalyst and the start to a fantastic 4 days of cricket for India. They just, like England did in the first test, they got ahead of the game and didn't let India back in. I think India have just done exactly the same here in reverse, and they were ruthless.
Yeah, that's a point that's made from Ian Bell, Sanjay, that it's not only about India winning, it's that certain important boxes were ticked. We spoke of Rohit Sharma almost coming into this test under a little bit of pressure. Ajinkya Rahane was a part of conversation. He got important runs in the first innings. There's Axar Patel, who we've spoken frequently of. It's not just the win, but that India have ticked boxes that were just about becoming points of contention.
Absolutely. And on the batting front, I don't think there's too much to worry, especially when you're having a home series. So the batting front looks okay. The big plus, you've got to say, is Axar Patel. After the experiment with Shahbaz Nadeem and Washington Sundar, I think India have got their 3 sort of very, very seasoned and tough to counter spinners when everyone is fit in home conditions. Ashwin, Jadeja and Axar Patel will be one, hell of an attack on turning pitches. And I think on the seam department, maybe Ishant Sharma, not the ideal conditions, is more, valuable to India in overseas conditions. So Ishant Sharma's penetration was, as expected, limited. Mohammad Siraj, in the very little bit that he had to do, impressed all of us. So India have most bases covered, and they've got some good players in the reserve as well. So a lot of work for England to do now.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about England. And if you're in that England dressing room right now as the management trying to do a bit of a review or a post-mortem of this test, Belly, do you tend to go, okay, we lost an important toss and India outplayed us. No matter, doesn't matter. We're going to get a different surface in the ping ball test. Let's put this behind us. Or are you still going to say, no, this was a test of how we'd react when we were behind in the game and we shouldn't have let India get to as many. We should have done better than 130, 160. What's the sort of chat that you'd like to have with this England team right now?
Firstly, I think they'll let the dust settle a little bit. I don't think they'll dive straight into things just now when it's quite heated and there'll be emotions flying around. I think they'll sleep on it tonight. They'll have a good review about it, as they would do whether they won. I think you look back on and you try and take the positives and the negatives because it's the only way to improve, even when you win. So I think for me, looking at it now, I think actually the toss, if England had won the toss and batted, I still don't think we would have won this game. I know that's in hindsight, it's easy to say, but we just didn't get enough runs in any innings we batted. We didn't necessarily look like we were on this surface compared to India. The skill set India had was far, far advanced with the bat, but also in the spin department. I think that's the one thing that's impressed me so much. And Sanjay touched on it, was just, I think India learnt from the first test and they got their paces right. They've probably got the attack they wanted as well. So credit to them. But I think England, they're going to have to. You can't dwell too much on a loss. I think they've got to accept that India are by far and away better, but they do know that they can match India. And if the surface is better, and it's a pink ball, and I think England coming into this series would have identified that as opportunity because it's a little bit different. No one quite knows what's going to happen, whether it's going to swing or seamers will be more involved. So I think England, certainly with their rotation in mind as well, have identified this third test match as a possible opportunity to win. The proof will be in the pudding at the end of that test match, but they're going to have to be able to dust themselves down now, but still have the confidence from the first test. But India were absolutely brilliant. And England have got to look at India and go, right, look how they reacted to a loss. We've got to try and take that going into the third.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.